Imagine waking up every morning with the same 24 hours as everyone else, yet somehow accomplish 10 more times the things. It's not because you're smarter, it's not because you're luckier, it's because you've trained your brain to think differently. And the truth is that gap between average people and the top 1% isn't just money, talent, or opportunity, it's mindset. And the 1% don't magically become successful overnight. They develop the habits, ways of thinking and decision making processes that have compounded over the years until the results they seem impossible to everyone else. And today we're breaking down exactly what that mindset looks like and how you can start applying it without needing millions of dollars, a fancy education, or some secret connection. And the first thing the 1% understand is that your life follows your choices, not your circumstances. Average thinking blames traffic, the economy, bad bosses, or bad luck. And high performers, they ask one simple question: what can I control right now? And that simple shift changes everything. You stop wasting energy complaining and start investing energy solving the problems. Every minute spent making excuses is minute not spent improving your situation. And the next major difference is delayed gratification. Most people, they chase that comfort. The 1% chase progress. And they know today's sacrifices create tomorrow's freedoms. And while others binge watch television for 6 hours, they're learning a skill or building a business, investing money, networking, or improving their health. They're not avoiding the fun forever. They're simply choosing a larger reward instead of an immediate one. Another trait is becoming obsessed with learning. The wealthiest entrepreneurs, investors, and leaders never assume they've arrived. They read books, listen to podcasts, study competitions, and analyze the failures and constantly ask the questions. They understand that knowledge compounds just like money, and one useful idea today can create opportunities worth thousands or even millions years later. And speaking of failure, there's more people get stuck. Average thinkers avoid failure because they think failure defines them. And the 1% see failure as data. Every mistake teaches them something. Every setback reveals a weakness they can fix. And Thomas Edison reportedly tested thousands of materials before creating a practical light bulb. He didn't call them failures, he called them lessons. And that's exactly how high achievers think. They don't lose lessons, they quit. And time also becomes incredibly valuable. The average person asks, how much does this cost? And the 1% asks, how much time will this save me? Money can always be earned again, and lost time never comes back. And that's why successful people automate repetitive tasks and delegate whenever possible and avoid unnecessary distractions. They guard their calendar like their life depends on them, and because in many ways they do. And discipline is another defining characteristic. Motivation is exciting, but it's unreliable. And some mornings you'll feel unstoppable. Other mornings you'll want to stay in bed. And the 1% don't rely on feelings. They rely on the system. They exercise because it's scheduled. They save money automatically. They work even when inspiration disappears. And systems beat emotion every single time. And perhaps the biggest mental shift is taking complete ownership. Instead of asking who's responsible, they ask, what could I have done differently? That isn't about blaming yourself for everything. It's about keeping control. And the moment you give responsibility to someone else, you also give away your power to change the outcome. And finally, the 1% play the long game. They aren't chasing overnight success because they know real success is built through consistent effort repeated over months and years. And every smart decision becomes another brick in a foundation that eventually looks like luck to everyone watching from the outside. Another habit that separates the 1% is surrounding themselves with people who challenge them instead of people who simply agree with them. Your environment quietly shapes your expectations. And if everyone around you settles for average, average begins to feel normal. If you're around ambition, discipline, optimistic people, their standards slowly become your standards. And that's why successful people are intentional about who they spend time with. They understand that attitudes and habits and even beliefs are contagious. You don't have to cut everyone out of your life, but you do need to recognize who pushes you forward and who constantly pulls you backwards. Then that 1% also thinks in terms of value instead of effort. And many people believe working harder automatically means earning money. But in reality, the marketplace rewards value. And someone who solves $1 million problem will almost always earn more than someone working twice as many hours doing repetitive tasks. And this is why successful people focus on building rare skills: communication, leadership, negotiation, sales, marketing, and financial literacy. And problem solving continues paying attention to dividends long after they've learned. So instead of asking, how can I work harder? They ask, how can I become more valuable? Financial thinkers is another major difference. Average people often spend the first and save whatever is left. And the 1% save and invest first, then spend what remains. They understand that every dollar has a job instead of seeing money as something to impress others with. They see it as a tool that can generate more opportunities. They buy assets that appreciate, produce income, or improve their ability to earn more in the future. They know that wealth isn't measured by what you drive or where, it's measured by the freedom your investments provide. Focus is another superpower. We live in a world full of notification, them endless scrolling, the breaking news, and the constant distractions competing for our attention. And the 1% realize attention is one of the most valuable resources they own. They eliminate unnecessary distractions because every interruption steals momentum. And deep and uninterrupted working often accomplishes more in 2 hours than a distracted person can finish an entire day. Another overlooked principle is consistency. People love dramatic transformations because they're exciting. But the truth is that extraordinary success usually comes from ordinary actions repeated for years. Reading 10 pages every day may not seem life changing, but that's over 3,000 pages a year. Investing a small amount of every month may seem insignificant, but compound growth eventually becomes astonishing. Exercising consistently beats occasional extreme workouts, and tiny improvements repeated daily eventually become impossible to ignore. And gratitude also plays a bigger role than many realize. The 1% don't ignore their goals. They appreciate how far they've gone already and already come. Gratitude keeps them grounded while ambition keeps them moving, and that combination creates resilience. So instead of constantly feeling behind, they recognize progress and stay motivated to continue building. And perhaps the most important lesson is understanding that success is identity before it becomes a result. If you only act disciplined when you feel motivated, your progress will always be inconsistent. But if you begin seeing yourself as someone who keeps promises, finishes what they start, learns continuously, and refuses to quit, your daily decisions naturally begin aligning with the identity. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your future. And here's the reality most people never hear: the 1% aren't superheroes. They don't possess secret powers or magical intelligence. They simply make better decisions more consistently across than everyone else. And they choose growth over comfort, responsibility over excuses, discipline over motivation, patience over instant gratification, and long-term freedom over short-term pleasure. And these choices compound every day, every week, every month, and every year until the difference becomes enormous. So if you're waiting for the perfect opportunity, the perfect timing, or the perfect amount of confidence, stop waiting. Let's start where you are with what you have. Read one chapter, save $1, learn one new skill, make one better decision and today than you did yesterday. And small actions repeated consistently build extraordinary lives. And the 1% mindset isn't reserved for a select few. It's available to anyone willing to think differently, act consistently, and refuse to settle for average. Then the only real question is whether you'll make the decision today or keep telling yourself you'll start tomorrow. Thanks for watching. If you found value in today's video, please subscribe, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.